Hey guys, Jamie Hartman here, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. We're here today with Bass University. I talked a little bit about my setup, my rod, reel, line setup. Now we're going to get into a little bit about the technique. Let's start off with the rigging. There's several different ways you could rig for several different baits. I'm going to show you a basic deal right now. It's just a worm. This is my smallmouth setup. So one of the most favorite, I guess, and widely used is a nose rig. And it's so simple. It's just a hook. You take it and you put it in the nose of the bait. It sounds very simple, right? Well, it is. That's all there is to it right there. You can see the hook sticks out. You have an exposed hook. The smallmouth don't seem to mind. Largemouth don't either. But if I was going to be throwing this, I got a number 2 hook on there. I probably would go to a number 1 just to downsize the hook a little bit, make it look a little more natural, but in most cases they don't care. So that's one way of rigging it. That's called a nose hook. Another way you can rig it is you take it on the shank of the hook and you slide that bait right down. Well, you slide the point into the bait like this here, and you come down into the worm pretty good, and you want it to sit flat. As long as it's sitting flat like that, that's another way you can rig it. A lot of guys like to do it like that. And when you're doing it like that, you have a tendency to put that hook deeper into the fish's mouth. It's not on the end of the bait now. It will distract the action a little bit. That's why I don't like to do it. If you have a longer bait, you can certainly get away with it. And like I said, a lot of times that will make your hookup ratio and land ratio a lot stronger. And then there's the other options with rigging it. Do you rig it straight up, meaning you have your flat part of your worm on the bottom? A lot of guys rig it upside down. They believe having the round part instead of the flat part on the bottom is key. I don't do that. I use the flat part on the bottom most of the time. So my basic setup is coming in just below the nose and sliding back into it, so I get a little bit of meat in there, enough to hold that hook on, or the bait on there real good. And that's basically the setup right there. That's where you get your most action. Getting into that fish is the easy part. Now once you get them hooked up, that's when the challenge begins. So as you get into that fish and he's moving around on you, that fish comes up. Some guys say it don't matter if that fish comes to go up and you drop that rod tip and you try to keep his head in the water. That's going to stop that fish sometimes from coming out of the water. I don't like having that rod tip all the way up and having that fish come out of the water with no pressure on the line. I actually use the water as something to keep pressure on the line as the fish comes up, instead of having rod tip to fish and that fish is going nuts on top of the water, or he's right out of the water, 2-3 foot out of the water, shaking like crazy, and all I've got is rod tip to fish. And that's a bad scenario. So I'm going to drop it as he comes up. I'm going to drop it and keep him low, get his head and his body back in the water, and then as soon as he finishes his jump, he gets back in the water, I'm going to come right up with the rod. What I've noticed with smallmouth, if you keep what I call top pressure, that means when that fish comes up, he jumps and he goes back down, get on top of that fish as quick as possible. You can do that by coming right up with your rod tip, keeping pressure on that fish. Don't overhorse them. Do not get into trying to reel them as quick as possible. What it's going to end up doing is you're going to cause that fish to come up again. He's going to come up, he's going to jump. That's when you start losing fish. I keep just enough pressure to let that fish start going back down. I know I haven't seen too many guys do this. I've learned this from fishing a lot on Oneida Lake. I'll actually chase that fish down. If I got a good one hooked up, not so much in grass, but if I can get him into open water, I'm going to get above the fish, meaning I'm going to get right on top of him. I'm going to use my trolling motor. I'm gonna slide over. I've landed so many more fish that way. I've seen Mike Iaconelli do it years back. And I went to trying it, and man, it does work. If you can stay above the fish, you're keeping that hook right up into the roof of his mouth, and you've got top pressure on him, and he's not gonna come up and jump. So if you keep that top pressure, I'm telling you, he's gonna more times stay down digging than want to come back up. But when they come back up and they see that boat, that's a whole different story, but we'll get to that. So we're gonna play that fish out, and in the Elite Series, we're not allowed to use nets. So we want to play that fish out. We want to wear him down. Then we're going to drag him around the side of the boat, and I like to get him.
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Glusek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests. From on the water to in the classroom, you'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills. Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time. Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best. Subscribe to Bass University TV today.